Hello out there, my name is Milesy and welcome to my channel. This is kind of a little bit of a different one today. I am swatching paints. And the reason why I am doing that, as you might have seen by now, I've been getting a whole lot of supplies in the mail to be able to start doing lots of new projects on here. And I don't know how many people here know this, but I used to paint a lot, an awful lot, and then I just kind of fell out of it. I used to do commission work pretty much as my full-time job, and just the stress of dealing with clients and choosing beggars made Artful a very stressful and anxiety-causing activity, so I really quit doing it, and I haven't really done art seriously in over a decade, which is really sad, so I want to start getting back into it. And right now, I am swatching the Dugato paints that I opened on my first unboxing video. I've got a few sets of paints in. I'm not swatching everything on this because I've actually got more paints since I filmed this video. But I'm trying to look at not just what I have, but what I have that needs to be thrown away, what can be fixed, what can be saved. And those Dugato paints are one that I don't think I'm going to use straight up. I did use them straight up to do a test, but I think they're going to become mixers because there's not a lot of them there. And now I'm using these really cheap acrylic ones. I forget what they're called, the Best Craft or something like that. They'll be unboxed in a future video. And these ones look really cheap. They're actually about on par with the ones that I use normally. And what I really liked about them, and the reason I really like cheap paints over more expensive name brand paints, is because I prefer matte colors. And you can kind of see as I am doing this that the Dugato ones are really glossy. And everything else that I use after that tends to dry really flat, really matte, and that's what I really prefer. So right now I'm just kind of going through. I think I just finished up with the best ones, and now I'm on to these really weird neon paints that I got a long time ago. And these poor paints, I don't know what's in most of these tubes that I am swatching, because last year I decided I was going to try to get back into painting. I bought a bunch of canvases, I bought some more paints, I went through everything that I had inherited from a close family friend who passed away a few years ago. I was given all of his art supplies, and in that was a lot of painting gear. So I was going through all of that because I had bought this big gallon-sized jug of gesso, which is basically an acrylic base mixed with glue. It's used to prime a canvas and give your paint something to grip on, because raw canvas is not very paintable. And even if you buy ready-to-paint canvas from the craft store, it's usually a good idea to prime it anyway with gesso. And one day I decided I was going to try to paint something, and I went down to my shelf and I was like, something doesn't look right. And I noticed that somehow this gallon-sized bucket of gesso had exploded all over my paint box. I still don't know how. There was no hole in the bucket, there was no crack. Somehow it had exploded from the sealed lid. And so any paint that was in that box with gesso that had paper labels no longer has a label, which included all of those neon ones. So I needed to swatch all of my neon ones to see what colors I had, and I was very surprised to see that I actually still had all of them. And now I'm kind of getting into these paints that are a mix of really cheap paints from the craft store and cheap colors that I've mixed from various ones from the craft store. I use Apple Barrel and Folk Art a lot. I used to use Delta, and you'll see some really old Delta labels. That brand doesn't exist. You'll also see me taking these bottles and holding them upside down because what's in them is so chunky. They were unusable. Just straight up couldn't even get anything out of there. So I was putting bottles on two different sides of my desk. If they were going onto the right-hand side of my desk, those were bottles that I was just going to wash out and reuse because what was in them just wasn't worth saving. The ones that went over to the left were either colors I don't have a lot of and really needed to save, or bottles that were almost full and probably could be saved. They had just got really chunky and gross. And those are fairly easy to save. It's when there's like just like a fraction of an ounce left that it's not really worth it. Those are the ones that I dumped down the drain and cleaned out. Because a lot of the paints that I have, the vast majority of the colors that I have were self-mixed. And the way that I tend to do that, and you'll see me experimenting with more stuff later on, but the way that I did this, and still do for the most part, is I just take the colors that I like, and I put them into an empty bottle, throw a little bit of medium in there to improve the flow, and I just mix the colors that I have, which is what acrylic paints are really good for. Acrylic paints are great for mixing, they mix really well, and what I have found is that typically, if you stay within the same price range for paints, they're going to mix across brands. Now, I wouldn't go get some really expensive paints and try to mix them with these cheap Apple Barrel ones. I don't think that would work out very well. But you can see, I think, the colors that I tend to lean toward. There are a lot of greens on this because I painted a Kermit for my niece a long time ago. And that used so much green, I needed to mix so many greens because I had none of them available. There, oh my god, I don't know what was even wrong with that one. That one had completely separated. It was a full bottle, and there was pigment just kind of on the bottom, and a layer of oil on the top, and no amount of shaking mixed them back together. For some reason, the pigment was completely unsuspended, and I couldn't get it to mix back together. So that one went away. The next video, though, I was experimenting with making my own paints, and I had a lot of fun with that. And I might do a better video now that I have learned how to do it, because I miss doing those expert videos. I did one for needle felting, and it was a lot of fun. And so I did one for paint mixing recently, and that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I made some really cool paints. I made some paints that don't work as well, but that's fine. But yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. And definitely going to be getting into painting. I've also got some new goodies coming. Like I said, there are more paints that I've got since this that I just got after this, so they weren't swatched here, but that's fine because they're basically on the same level, except for one set, which absolutely was terrible. It was really, really awful. And I have got something else really special that I cannot wait to take a look at. They haven't even shipped yet. They're on pre-order, and I'm not going to say too much about that. If you're in the Discord, you might be able to figure it out, what I'm talking about, because I did talk about this a little bit there. But I just wanted to do a little sneak peek of what I have had going on, and one of those things has been wanting to get back into art. So if you're curious about seeing any of that, I'll be doing a lot of painting, I'll be doing some markers, maybe some pencils, getting into a bunch of stuff that I put on another channel for a while that just never took off. So maybe you guys will like it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, all that fun stuff. Make sure you turn on notifications if you want to see all these videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!